And then we could turn off the recording later if we want. So welcome everyone. It's so nice to be here. We haven't done a sharing circle for a while. So thank you for joining us today, where we're going to explore some legacy school ideas and see what people are doing. Sorry. Slideshow from beginning. So thank you for coming. My name is Lisa Prynn. I'm the Manager of Education and Activation with the Gord Downie and Cheney Wenjack Fund. I am non-Indigenous. I'm a Kiwi on my dad's side, and on my mother's side, we're 7th or 8th generation Irish English settler farmer Canadians. And I just want to acknowledge the land that we're all on, because we're all coming from different places, but we all share the same air and the same water and the land throughout Turtle Island. So thank you very much. And no matter where we are, right now I'm in Toronto, Treaty 13, which is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, Wendat, and Chippewa peoples, as well as in Mississauga of the Credit First Nations. We also honor the dish with one spoon here, as we have to respect the land and all we do together to make sure that we can keep feeding one another and living together. So thank you for coming. I just wanted to acknowledge too that we do have full permission from both the Wenjack and Downie families to share the legacy of Gord and Cheney as we walk this path of reconciliation together. And we do like to start all of our sessions just acknowledging that sometimes the topics can be very, very difficult. We all have a different story and a different background. So if you are ever feeling like you need support, know that it is there. And I've listed a few services, so please feel free to reach out. And also, you know, there's people around you that you can always talk to as well, I'm sure. So we're going to start with introductions. And then I'll talk a little bit about the Legacy Schools program, and then we'll delve right into it with examples from Legacy Schools and some teachers who are doing some fantastic work. Yeah, would everybody like to maybe just do a quick round of introductions? Maybe unmute and just say who you are and where you're from. Maybe we can start with, I'll start with people who are not presenting. So maybe Jane, if you don't mind just saying a quick hello.
I don't have my screen on, but can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. You don't need to put your screen on.
Now I got my screen on. I don't think you can see much though. Sorry. I am a counselor at a K-8 school in Brandon, Manitoba. So we are freezing here. When you guys are talking temperatures, don't like -20. We are sitting at like, we're a little warmer now, but it was -40 this morning. So yeah, I'm super happy to be here. I try to tap into as many things as I can, and I follow all the Downie Wenjack emails and try to take part in everything to be a school of reconciliation.
Amazing, thank you. Natalie?
Hi everyone, I'm Natalie Goodlett. I am a staff member here at DWF. So I am the Youth Ambassador Coordinator. So I do everything for the Youth Ambassador Program, which is a program that runs over the summer for youth age 16 to 25. Applications are now currently open. So if you know anyone within that age range, let them know that applications are open. It's a really great opportunity to learn some leadership skills, some 21st century skills, and deepen your understanding of reconciliation. So yeah.
Great, thank you. Sophie?
Hi, yeah, I'm Sophie. So I'm in Sherbrooke, Quebec, which is the traditional territory and ancestral grounds of the Abenaki people and Wabanaki Confederacy. I'm a new Legacy School member, so I just found out about your organization last year and decided to sign up because I was interested in learning more and incorporating that into our curriculum at school.
Amazing, thanks for joining us. We actually have a French DWF Live coming up if you're interested. We can talk about that later. Sabrina.
Wojciech. I am Sabrina Antonup from Burston Lake First Nation and Treaty 9 Territory, currently living in Toronto. And I'm also a DWF staff member. I'm the Education Programs Assistant here. So, yeah.
Thank you. Tara?
Hi, yeah, I'm Tara Hawkins. I'm coming to you from Treaty 6 territory in Edmonton. I'm in Edmonton, Alberta. I'm actually a Girl Guide leader, so I'll be running the reconciliation work with my Pathfinder unit, which is junior high age, so grades 7 through 9 group of girls in the next month. So thought I'd come and check it out again. It's been a while since I've attended.
Amazing. Thank you. Jen?
Hi, I'm Jen Karbiak. I'm here in Medicine Hat, which is in Southern Alberta. And I teach grades 7 to 9 humanities and English.
Perfect.
I'm going to be presenting, so I don't want to say too much now.
Yeah, I know. I was like, we're going to hear more from you soon. And then I was going to get Marisa to talk a bit about herself, because she's also going to be presenting right about now.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name's Marisa Parker. I am a staff member here at W. Ross Macdonald School for the Blind and Visually Impaired. Often people don't know about us, so I'll just give you a little bit of a background. We are the only school for the blind in Canada. We service students actually from across Ontario. So many of our students are day students. They come in during the day and go home every night. And many of our students are actually also students that stay over in our lodging program if they're coming from very far. And we do have students that actually, we had a student that could touch Manitoba from his house and was still a student here at W. Ross. So he had a big travel, but our students do go home every weekend. So often there's a lot of traveling involved for them for sure. But we actually joined up as a legacy school. I think I signed us up maybe about 5 years ago. It's been quite a while, maybe 6. But one of the reasons for us was that we were definitely interested in learning more about the area where we are, which is 6 Nations of the Grand River Territory on the Haldimand Tract. So something that we were interested in learning about, because we recognize that we inhabit now land that was not ours in the first place. So we wanted to learn more about that, but also because many of our students do come from other areas of Ontario and have lots of different and varied experiences. And we do have many Indigenous students year after year. So we wanted to be respectful of their experiences as well and learn as much as we could. And joining up with DWF seemed like a good start, and it's been great for us actually. So we tried a few things. We've done a walk for Wenjack. We do that every year actually, but maybe not with a lot of success. We're a small student population, but this about just before 2020, I would say, the art teacher and I were having a conversation about what could we do at our school to try to build an understanding and help our students to learn in a way that wasn't just someone talking to them or talking at them. And for our students, one of the best ways that they learn is through experiences and through experiential learning opportunities. So it seemed like a great way to do it. So we kind of brainstormed, what could we do? I was in contact with a few people from DWF about, what did they think about different ideas? And that was great to be able to bounce those ideas off someone so that we knew we were on the right path. And we came up with this idea. It's taken us 3 years to make it happen, but we did get totally shut down with COVID. So this is something that we have been working on for a while, but it has turned out incredibly, and I'm so proud of it. So I'm going to share my screen. Bear with me with my tech work here, but I just want to share with you. So this is actually the hallway right outside of our library at the school. It was the big blank white wall. And what we decided to do was to have the students create something that could go on the walls that would be a permanent art installation. So we actually I hand painted the orange, which it will show you goes all the way up the walls and all across the ceiling. And then the students actually created the feathers. Some of them are ceramic. We actually have a ceramic studio at the school because we are a school that really values the tactile nature of art, because we want our students to be able to touch it, to experience it. Some of them are made of ceramic, some are yarn, some of them, I have some close-ups, but if you look sort of to the left of the picture, we're still working on our signage. We have a request in for funds so that we can actually have permanent signage made up to share the installation. But we basically have this feather that's right beside it so that the students understand what they're looking for when they're heading into the installation. And I'm going to show you some other photos so you get some close-ups here. So here's just a close-up of what some of the feathers look like, and they're attached permanently to the wall. You can see the different materials. And it should be noted that many of our students actually do have some residual vision. So some of them having some bright colors and that sort of thing is really helpful as well. And it goes right up actually onto the ceiling. And then the materials here are actually just materials that the students can touch. The black bar underneath is what we call a trail rail. So our students are actually using that to trail along the hallways to orient them to where they are. And they can actually feel that as they go by. So it's just something that reminds them of where they are. And we've got some signage as well. I'm sure you've noticed the big truth and reconciliation, and then every child matters up on there as well. So what our goal is, I can probably stop sharing my screen. Our goal is actually to have an auditory experience as well incorporated with the art, so that the students will be able to push a button and be able to hear something in an auditory format that helps to raise their awareness of all of the issues related to that. So we're actually hoping, and I'm hoping I can invite someone from the Downey Wenjack Foundation to actually do the audio recording with us, because I think that would be really powerful. And we can maybe work on that together as a team. But I think it's been a great installation. And then we did our Walk for Wenjack this year, and we had double the participation, and we actually raised triple the funds. So I feel like what we're doing is helping a little bit, you know, in terms of raising that awareness. And I think that that art installation has been a big part of it. So I appreciate all the information that we get from the Downey Wenjack Foundation. I think that all of that is so valuable, and it's really nice for the students to be able to take part in something really meaningful like that.
That's awesome. Does anyone have any questions for Marissa? Okay, thanks so much, Marissa. It's so great to see how different schools are doing different things. And just how like we can all do our part to make change, right?
I really appreciate it. And I'm so sorry that I can't stay for the rest of the meeting, but thank you so much for having me and for helping us with this important project too.
No problem. Thanks for sharing with us. I'm going to pass it over to Jen now, who's going to share.
Perfect. All right. Are you going to control the slides, Lisa? You got it?
Yeah. If you just tell me when. Just tell me when.
Okay. Let's go. Sounds good. All right. Do you want to go ahead to the next one? All right. Just so you know where we are, I'm in Medicine Hat. I said that earlier. You look, we're kind of right on the border between Treaty 7 and Treaty 4. We're in a weird spot though, because we're primarily a white settler population in our city, although there is a huge population of people who are Métis and white passing, but we're kind of disconnected sometimes from other communities. And so that's been a bit of a challenge where we are, just so you know, we are the home of the world's largest teepee, and we have lots of archaeological sites locally and some important historic sites that are in close proximity. And so that's been helpful connecting the past to the present and future with our students. I want to go to the next one, please. I am Métis myself, but I'm certainly not an expert in any of this. We're all just learning together. I do teach grades 7 to 9. Right now I have grade 9 humanities and English as well as a grade 7 English class. But I'm in a dual track school, so that's English and French immersion school. About 1,200 students, and most of our students are actually in middle school, and so that's where I've been living for most of my career. I'm fortunate to teach in a district that has had an Indigenous education division for quite a few years, which has supported us in our work with cultural programming, but also helping us with building support and making sure that we're on the right path. But it is not an easy journey living where we are in some ways, but our district has recently, just in the last year, changed our universal goals. And so we are making efforts to commit to truth and reconciliation. So September 30th is not a school holiday. We are in school that day, and everyone is trying to move forward more so in the truth aspect, because our consultation with local elder and our Indigenous education division wants us to start there, which makes sense. We have to understand where we've come from to understand where we're at now and to move forward. And then this year, for the first time, everyone is required to complete the 4 Seasons of Reconciliation coursework, which is kind of similar, if you're familiar with the U of A program that was, or the course, sorry, it's similar to that, but that's our district's commitment to calls to action 62 and 65. But then in Alberta, TQS 5 is the expectation that all teachers have a foundational knowledge of the past, present, and future of Indigenous education as well. And so we're all making that commitment. In the photo is just something that we had done just with our grade 9 students. They, on September 30th, we've been focusing a lot on making commitments and what our role is in being all treaty people. And so we've done some work with that, and students decided that they wanted to have more of a permanent installation. And so they came up with the idea of orange handprints, and we're putting that up as a permanent installation. Not quite as nice as Marissa's yet, but hopefully we can move forward and have more ways to show our commitment to each other and trying to be in good relations to one another. And that's part of our growth in our school and our division. Next slide, please. In terms of what we've been focusing on, I live in middle school, and so we've since 2014 we've been able to access something called Community Classroom, and it started with just myself and another teacher when I fully taught grade 7. We used to be able to access funding through our division, and it's part of the idea of open minds or open campus ideas that Jillian Kidd originally had started. And we had a belief that we wanted more students to access being outside and be connected to nature, because we've all seen that disconnection, and understanding place and where we are in the world is really important. And so originally it started with this 2 classes, and we went for a week. We were outside doing all of our learning integrated outside, and rain or shine. It's continued today. It looks a little bit different because originally it was just the 2 classes. Now every grade 7 student that's there by the end of September, every grade 7 has had this opportunity. There's TP raising, storytelling, looking at the flora and fauna, writing and sharing and learning Indigenous games, all of those different pieces coming together. When I did teach grade 7 fully, we originally, when the book and film first came out, we started in grade 7. It was only a couple of classes. Now we've moved it to grade 9 because we have different programming in 7. We've kind of looked at different things at each grade level to find the best fit for just our context. But in grade 9, every student participates in looking at the film, the songs, and all the pieces of that. And I'll talk a little bit more after that. We're currently also auditing all of our texts to make sure that we're not only meeting Canadian content, but we're looking at adding more Indigenous content, whether that's in short stories and film. We're always trying to be better and updating that to make sure we're also not wanting to choose texts that reinforce any negative stereotypes. And so we're working on that, and that's 7 to 12 right now. And of course, when we look at how we celebrate June 21st, that looks different than what we engage in when we look at September 30th. June 21st, we're still at school, but we use it as a day of celebration to look at resilience and celebration of indigeneity, and trying to work that into it too, so that the stories that students are hearing are not just about difficult things. And yes, we acknowledge the truth, we want to learn about that, but we also want to be celebratory as well, so that we're not just seeing one facet of what it means to be First Nations, Métis, or Inuit here. So next slide, please. With Secret Path in particular, we've looked at it as more of an inquiry-based kind of project. Often we've noticed too, and I think Marissa touched on this idea of hands-on and being able to do something is really important. So in the past, sometimes students have chosen to write emails or letters to the Prime Minister and other political figures asking them to act on the calls to action. And so we have looked at that. We often, because we're in grade 9 and our curriculum in social studies touches on issues of individual rights and collective rights, looking at it from that piece as well. And we've noticed sometimes when we look outwards first, we watch the documentary film I'm Rohingya, which is about the genocide in Myanmar. We look at that first, and then we look at connecting in the Canadian context. So this is something that's happening currently, it's a current event, unfortunately. But then we look at what does that mean in our own country? What are ways that we have a responsibility to each other, no matter where we live, but also what are some things in our own past that continue to affect us, and how are we going to move forward? And so we start with the lyrics of the Tragically Hip, and we look at the song Wheat Kings, which is connected to nonfiction texts about David Milgaard. He was a Métis man who was wrongly convicted of murder, if you're not familiar. That's we introduce them to the style of the Tragically Hip and Gord Downie. And then so we go into the Secret Path itself. We do look at the graphic novel. We're fortunate to have a class set. We look at the film and the album, and ultimately we look at it from an English learner's art perspective. If you look on the Downie Wenjack website, there's the mixed champagne lesson plans are sort of the seed of some of our thinking about how we're going to approach the Secret Path. We've kind of taken it lots of different ways because we do leave it open-ended for our students, because we recognize everyone's coming from different places. I will say, though, that more and more students are coming to us with the background knowledge already. And so we're kind of shifting in response to where they're at in their own understandings. But often there is this creation of art piece or something, often it's drawing, whatever it might be. And they're still fulfilling outcomes for English and social studies. This year we're just actually going to study, when we get back, we're on a break right now. When we get back next week, we're starting with the Wheat Kings songs and then moving into the Secret Path. This group is really strong and very politically active and aware, so I'm not sure where they'll take it. We're working a lot on multimodal composition, combining visual art with text and all sorts of things, so we'll see where they take it, and I'll share that when they finish it, but that's where we're headed. And I don't know if I had any other slides after that. I don't think so. But I think one thing maybe as a classroom teacher to think about, I know our code of conduct in Alberta has just changed, and we've always been required to inform parents and guardians about the text that we're studying. So I always have permission beforehand. And we make sure that we make safe spaces for students too, because regardless of anyone's background, you might not know how they respond. And so in the same way that we started this slideshow with that sensitivity, we do that with our exploration of these texts as well, just to be cautious, because we don't always know everyone's story. But I think that's everything. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, so it might be easier if someone asks questions or anything else they wanted to talk about.
That's awesome. I love the tie-in with the Wheat Kings. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And I did not know David Milgaard was Métis.
He is, yes.
Wild. Does anyone have questions? All right. Harriet, did you want to unmute and tell us a little bit about what you've been doing?
Great. Let me
Thanks,
just
Jen.
introduce. Thank you. I just want to acknowledge that I am on Treaty 3 territory and on the territory ancestral lands of the Obishka-Kan Anishinabek Laksua First Nation. Our school is situated on that, and I often teach my students about that. My name is Harriet Visitor. I'm the niece of Cheney Wenjack. I'm also a board of directors for the Downie Wenjack Fund, and I sit on the education committee as well. And I always considered myself a spokesperson for my mom and her sisters, the Wenjack sisters. So when I think, well, look at this picture of Gord that's actually in Ogoki. I say that this began my journey, my Secret Path journey for myself too. This was taken in 2016 in Ogoki, and this is the first time that I met Gord. So I currently am employed and have been employed since this 2016 journey with the Kuwait and Patricia District School Board. I first was employed as a teacher at Curlancia Public School, which is our first legacy school. And I'm now with the Sioux Mountain Public School in Sulaka. So this is, yeah, so when I look at this picture, I think of my journey. I think of Gordon, everything that I did not know how much Gord was going to impact this secret path journey of mine. So we can go on to the next slide. And this is at the time this picture, or this picture has been taken. This is actually my my Aunt Pearl's cabin in Agoki. And this is when Gord had come with Pat and Patrick and Mike and other people as well, other supporters, Stuart, and just a lot of other people came with him to support. And he came to, Gord came to Agoki to show us this graphic novel that he had made with his friends. And he came to ask for our support and willingness to work with him. He was asking for us to work with him. And at the time, I was actually sitting on the floor in front of them because there was just basically standing room only. And I was sitting on the floor watching Gord and watching my daughter sitting on the lap with my mom there. And I was just taking everything in. I didn't know what was going to be happening. I just knew something was going to be happening, and I just sat there and I was taking everything in that was going around me. And little did I know that the connections that we were going to create from this visit on, and what this visit was going to mean for our family and for myself, second generation, my daughter, third generation. And I know for myself, I had waited many decades to hear my Uncle Cheney's story. I'd heard little bits and pieces of it, but at the time, and I often share that, the teacher in me became the student, and I sat and I took it in, and I just listened to my mom, my aunts, Gord share. A lot of us cousins were there to support our parents and our mothers, and support our aunties. I brought my children with me during this time too, because I understood that that this was important for them to be part of too. And every time that I can, I often bring my children to anything for the secret path, and whatever I'm doing or whatever we're going to support, I often try to bring them, because I know that they third generation, it's very important for them too to know the story, to know the history, to be a part of it. And I think that that's what I think of when I see this. I see just what this picture, this time would mean. It was a very private time for our families to be together. So that's what I think of this. And then I think of this photo, and this photo was taken after a visit that they had. Gordon had gone to see my late Uncle Cheney's gravesite. He had gone to visit it. And these are my aunts. These are today the surviving aunts that are my mother's on the far left in Gord, my Aunt Annie, my Aunt Evelyn, and my Aunt Pearl, who's often our spokesperson. And I think of this journey that we have, because when I think of this picture, I can put myself in this picture just like you can put yourself in this picture. I can put myself in this picture as an Indigenous person, and then the person who's not Indigenous says I can put myself in this picture too, because this clearly exemplifies what we are at the fund. This is two families coming together. And I think of this journey in a sense that no one's walking ahead of anyone. No one's walking behind with anyone. We're walking together side by side. When I think of this picture, it kind of brings back to the whole reason that I believe we started. The story of 150,000 Indigenous children. And if you want to take that further, and I often say that's 300,000 set of parents and 600,000 set of grandparents. I often hear stories of my aunt and talk about the time when children were taken away and how quiet the community got when all the children left. That's what we are. That's, as educators, we have those very difficult discussions, and we speak to those very difficult topics. And that's what I carry whenever I'm sharing anywhere. This is what I carry with me. I carry these 150,000 children, these 300,000 set of parents, and these 600,000 set of grandparents. That's the impact of our communities. That's the impact of our people. And I carry that with me. And that's what I think of when I think of this journey. This journey has become so many different things as as an educator, as a mother, as a daughter, as a student who went to residential school myself. I think of myself in terms of where I am on my healing journey, and how I think about, my mom, and I think about my daughter, and there I am, an educator. And I understand how very difficult and painful our history is. I see it, I feel it, I've experienced it. And I think about how, when I'm looking at my daughter, and I say that my son was the reason I became a teacher, but my daughter has become the lens through which I teach now, more so. And I think of how, when I'm talking to her, when I'm talking to my students as well, I'm talking into them, and I'm looking into their eyes, and I'm telling them, I know everything what you're hearing is painful. I know it evokes so many different emotions. I mean, as an educator, I know what I feel myself as well. And I'm looking at them, and I said, but I also know how strong and resilient we are, because we're still here. I just need to look at you and know. I know my role as an educator, I know my role as a parent. And I keep thinking about this journey. I think about this year, September 30th, and I had decided or thought for some time, how am I going to start my walk for Wenjack? What theme, what do I want them to see coming out of COVID especially? I wanted our students and our teachers to know that this is a journey we walk together, like this journey. No one's walking behind us. No one's walking in front of us. We're walking together, but we need each other on this journey, and the strength of working together, coming out of a time when we're all placed in separate areas and not coming together as we had been before. So that's what I think of this. And when I think of what we're doing at our school, we can go to the next slide. Thank you. So this slide. This will be my second year that in my school, and I really want to acknowledge and honor my administration for doing this. They've given me a title, I guess, in my school. I'm one of two teachers. I'm the lead in this. We're called a legacy project teachers. And they've given me one period out of every day, an additional period besides my prep. And they've given me every day 5. I have 3 full periods in the morning that I am a legacy support teacher. I provide support to teachers, to students. They've given me that time. Besides myself, I work with Sharon Demonsky. She's a support worker. I work with Sarah Costco. She's our pathways teacher. And I also work with another teacher beside me named Cezanne Martin. And the 4 of us together work to support our teachers. And now, as a language teacher, I normally would have a lot of teachings that have the knowledge keeper come into my classroom. But what we've done this year, and we thought, okay, the focus we want to put on teachers, we want to put on students. So what we had, and thanks to Sharon and Sarah for the work that they do as well. We've given a lot of time for classes to go out into this beautiful land. This is called, we call it Nick's Nest, sorry. And So they go out all day. They do a lot of land-based learning and experiencing out here. We have teachers that go out with their students, and there's just so much learning and so much that they experience together as a class with their teacher. It's all about inclusion. It's all about not just having it in my class, because normally it would be all in the native language class, but now it's not. Our focus was putting the opportunities on the classrooms themselves. So we have that, as well as we have a time within our school where the classroom teachers bring in their students once a week to our culture room, and then they get teachings from another knowledge keeper who comes in there and does 12-week rotations, so that all the students in our school can experience the different teachings as well. So that has been our focus this year, is on including the classrooms, including the teachers, and including the opportunities for them to have a lot of this land-based experience and going out, and they're loving it. The students come back, and they come back smelling like smoke, because it just bells and you could just, smell it in the hallways, and it's just like they're chattering, they're talking, there's nothing that we can give them other than them going on the land to experience a lot of this. And I'm really thankful that my school board or my school has given us this opportunity to do this, and that it's not something that I could do by myself, that it takes a team of us to be able to do this, to provide this for our students. And I'm thankful, even though sometimes I've been out here just once this year. It doesn't fall on a day that I'm able to go. So, but I'm still thankful that I can be a part of supporting and encouraging and listening. And when they come back, talking about it and doing any discussions on it with my students. So that's what we've been doing at our school this year, was focusing, coming from a time where everyone was so, you had to wear masks, you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that, to this openness and giving the students back. Because this is one of the things all the students, and when we'd ask them, what do you want? They want to go on the land, they want to experience the land. Well, we have been able to give them that. And I'm so thankful to our school that we are able to do that, to our elders and our knowledge keepers that support us in being able to give this to our students. So I wanted to share that this evening. And I know that I'm so excited oftentimes to hear what other teachers are doing, because I know that there's so much learning that we get from each other. I love what I see what teachers are doing with the secret path. I love what they're doing with their, the different teachings that they have, the different opportunities that they have, from whether you're living in a city or not. My best PD has always been learning from other teachers. And I just wanted to share with you that what we're doing in our school. And I want to thank you for being a part of this sharing circle and sharing your learning and what you're doing and you're experiencing as well. I mean, it's not knowing that we have a very, and the teacher touched on that before. I know that we have a very painful, difficult topics that we do discuss, but I know for myself as well, I like to speak to those strengths that we have in understanding our role as teachers. And so I want to acknowledge the work that our teachers do as well. So I want to thank you for listening to me. I look forward to hearing our next presenter.
Does anyone have any questions for Harriet now, or want to share anything that they've been doing?
I can share some things. Well, I might provide maybe a little bit of context. So I am currently in Sherbrooke, Quebec, which is Abenaki territory, as I said earlier, but that is not where I was born. So I was actually born across the river from the Tobica First Nation, which is part of the Maliseet Nation reserves in New Brunswick. And I was born completely ignorant to that reserve. I was basically living right next door, and I had no idea about any of the history, anything, you know. I didn't learn about any of that at school. My parents didn't really talk to me about any of that. So I had the chance to go to Bishop's University in Sherbrooke, Quebec, and that's where finally I actually learned about colonization and the negative impacts and effects it had on the Indigenous populations of our country. And so as an educator, I made it kind of my mission. So I currently teach social studies to grade 3, 4, 5, and 6 at my school. And I kind of made it my mission to really challenge the dominant historical narrative that has been taught in our schools for centuries. So that's been my mission. But also at my school, we have a lot of Bishop's University grads who've had the same education as I have. So a lot of the language teachers include a lot of Indigenous literature in the classroom, a lot of Indigenous stories. We do a lot of art projects in the style of Indigenous artists. So yes, you know, in history, we try to talk about the hardships that Indigenous peoples have faced since European settlers have come to this country. But we also, you know, want to acknowledge or show all the heroes, you know, the Indigenous heroes and all these great role models, and, you know, also talk about the resiliency of the population and not just focus, you know, always on the hardships. I've been lucky enough to, you know, make some contacts with certain Indigenous people of the community. So I try to invite Indigenous guest speakers to come, so that, because I am a non-Indigenous person and I acknowledge that I'm very much a learner still in this process. So it's nice to actually, you know, get knowledge from people who are more experts. We also celebrate the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation at my school, also National Indigenous Peoples Day, but we try to stay away from, you know, the performative activism where, you know, you wear an orange shirt and just put it on social media, put the pictures on. We've been trying to go beyond that and try to, you know, actually do something that will benefit Indigenous communities. So we've done fundraisers at my school where we've raised money for like the Indian Residential School Survivor Society, different things like that. And this year, finally, we've started land acknowledgements at my school. So before all of our staff meetings, before assemblies. So yeah, I mean, we're working hard to try to, you know, do more and more every year. But I like attending webinars like this because it gives me a chance to learn more. And I try to read and research and look at as many resources as possible so that we're being sensitive and teaching in an appropriate manner. I'll stop there. But thanks for listening.
Thank you, Sophie. That's awesome. Sounds like you're doing the real work, which is great. It's really awesome. Does anyone else have any comments or want to share? Jonah, do you want to maybe take over for a bit?
Ani, how's the connection from where I am? Awesome. Wow. It's always cool listening to other people and what they're doing. So miigwech for that. I was thinking just about what Harriet was saying of where things have started though. And that experience of that journey of bringing through, and I hope for those who are sitting with us today can really appreciate sort of that sense, even though like it's always amazing when we're in person with each other, to experience and feel and read each other's body languages. But just what you've brought for us, Harriet. Miigwech for sharing that first connection of where this dream of what Downie Wenjack can do for educators, for families like ours who are Anishinaabeg, and working through education in the way that we are, and for our non-Indigenous educators who are stepping up, showing up, and gathering and using these resources that we have available to us, and making it of use in a good and kind way as it's intended to be. So I really appreciate, from whether it's grade 3 or grade 7, I just came in partway through our other person here. I can't remember your name. I'm so sorry, but you gave such a nice presentation about the work that your school is doing and trying to do, and piecing it all together to make it right, so these future youth have all the truth, or more than what we've had as we've come through this public school system and even the private school system. So I'm looking forward to sharing some things with you guys. I did not prepare a PowerPoint, and Lisa's being super helpful and kind to me of allowing, because I want to show you something live that you can use later for yourself. So Lisa, you're going to have to walk me through this of sharing my screen, because I've actually got Zoom separate from you guys. Can we go ahead and do that?
Yeah, do you want to send me the link and I can share it for you?
Yeah.
Like just in the chat even?
Mm-hmm. 1 second. Well, all of you can if people have so there we go. I hope that opens it, unless it's through mine.
It opened. Hold on, I'll just share it.
Cool.
Yep.
Oh, you are goddess. So the only tricky part is we'll have to zoom a little bit, but I'm so happy that we're opening up to this. I rejigged a few things so that you guys could see this part first. So I'm going to introduce myself first, because I'm not sure what Lisa said about me before I got here. So I just want to set the record straight. So Ani Bojo, Nwantanoquay Indigo, Jonah Hupfield Indigenous Cause, Wasauksing First Nation, Mill Lake, Dindot, Mill Lake, Ontario, Dindot, Anishinaabe, Minoa, Jagnashinkwe, and Dow. Minoa 50 Babongus, Gaye Nadanoki, Perry Sound High School, Kinamagig Making, Anishinaabe, Wenjack, Minoa Indigenous Studies, Gaye. And Gitche Gitchenendam, Gagitchenendam, Gwagitchenendam, Nawagitchenendam, and Noki Yang, Awushkanik. So I am going to translate that for you, because really this is a land acknowledgement of me upon the lands that I work and live upon, but acknowledging myself in my home language is essential to me to share with you. And so I'm bringing that to you live from Nishnawbe territory, which I'll jump into in a moment. But I always say to my students, the most important person is me, meaning them. They have to be there. So my Anishinaabe name means calm waters woman. And my English name is Jonah Hupfield. Both have stories to them. And I love both stories. And I also said I'm of the Martin clan, and I'm Martin clan through my father. We follow through our father's lineage for him. And my father is not Native. My mother is Anishinaabe, and she's a residential survivor from the mush hole. And she is Adik Adodem. She was the Caribou clan. I come from Wasauksing First Nation, but you will have heard that I said that I live on Mill Lake. It's about 12 minutes off of my community. I pay property taxes to live in the territories that my people first used their birch bark canoes in when they were migrating through here. And that is in Ontario. If you know Bobby Orr, heard of him, or Francis Pegmagabo. Francis Pegmagabo is actually who my mom was named after, Peggy, from Wasauksing First Nation. So we're about 12 minutes away from my home territory of my mom. And I also said I'm English and Ojibwe, which is why I have this beautiful skin tone. I'm sure further back there's more non-native people in my family, certainly on my dad's side. And I also said that I am 50 years old, and I said Babone because Babone means winter. And I love sharing that because it means how many winters have you made it through? Just jokes. So I'm 50 winters through. I made it. And it's fun when the students introduce themselves too in that. I also said that I teach at Parry Sound High School. I teach Anishinaabe, so Ojibwe language, to grade 9 through 12. And I also teach Indigenous Studies grade 9 through 12, all of which the Ontario curriculum is to direct me through. But because I grew up in this territory, I graduated from the high school I teach in, and I'm home teaching and giving back to my community in the best way that I can. And in a lot of ways, that's a privilege for me. I think that's all that I said in Ojibwe, other than acknowledging that I am sitting on my home territory. Some people call it Robinson Huron Treaty territory, and we also call it the migratory area, of which my people riced through for wild rice, and we moved all the way through into Minnesota. So that's a little bit about where I'm at. And like I said, speaking to you guys in the language and how I've been taught, it's acknowledging my personal land acknowledgement. So what I wanted to bring to you tonight really is about the work of the youth. It is a privilege for me to be in my home community and teach at the high school that I was at. And that's the worldview that I bring in. And in some ways that's a blessing, and other times it feels like, and I don't like to use the word burden, but it's heavy work. A couple of you have mentioned it being uncomfortable, and staff feeling uncomfortable, but even these beautiful Indigenous youth that I get to work with. We've got this awesome guy, and every picture I'm going to show you are students and their families who agreed to be on social media to have their moment. And who knows, maybe they'll get hired in for a commercial or something. And I wanted to share this little series of photos that went in. And I was admitting to Lisa that I'm not always great at doing the hashtag or at legacy schools, or that we are a legacy school, but we are. It's something we talk about a lot at PSHS. But we are still in the midst of educating our staff and how to honor that, because when you have an Indigenous person on staff, sometimes we lean a little bit too hard on them to do that work for all of us and tag along. But I have a really great core group of non-native staff who want to keep learning and be a resource of what their skill sets are for technology or for art. You name it, there's some people who want to help do that. So in this case, we had the Remembrance Day Assembly put together, and they wanted to honor just the way of the world and how we are living through this pandemic and the struggles and things that we are facing, but yet how we persevere and how the soldiers did at this time. So I am going to ask Lisa, if you don't mind, to if you can actually open the screen a little bit more so we can see, because there's 10 photos. That's a layered one. So I think, yeah, if you click. So we'll just stop there for a moment. So the first, actually, if you want to go back, that's cool. So social justice words, these are terms that the students came up with that they felt were essential that to be presented in front of our whole town and certainly in a school assembly. And that not only their worldview needs to be incorporated, as our history teacher knew has to be there, but also asked for Indigenous perspective. So the students scrambled together to get it together, because as you guys know, every place was still being impacted by COVID. I don't know about you, but we had a ton of kids away through September and October, and working through that was something. So I was really happy that we were able to pull this off for Remembrance Day Assembly. And part of it is what we look at is, it was mentioned earlier by a couple of you, of what is truth, what is reconciliation, And as you can see, and I kind of just want to jump into the photo, so I'll stop talking a little bit. Yeah, so we've got land back. And you can go as fast as you feel, Lisa. Persevere and just take a look at these beautiful faces. Yeah, we can keep going. Yeah, respect, right? That's a grade 9 student, grade 10. Bring the children home. I just want to pause there. He is, can you go back? He is a product of a 60 scoop survey.
Jonah, we're losing you. You might want to turn your video off.
What's that?
We lost you for a minute. So you might want to turn your video off, maybe.
Okay, I will. Yeah, so this student is a product of 60 Scoop. And just the fact that he chose that to share with the school and knowing that we are the change, we can be the change and to do something. Switch. Beautiful one, of course, popular. I love that these two guys both wanted to have their faces stuck with this one. Yeah. Protect the sacred, of course. This is an Anishinaabe student, and that's the other thing. We don't want people to think we look a certain way. And just knowing, imagine this being on a full screen in front of hundreds of students and our teachers. And I think there's another one. Yeah, reconciliation. As you guys know, that's a big word. And it's one students are saying, like, we have to keep deconstructing and looking at what that word means. And so bringing that one up, and that might be the last one. There might be one more. I'm not sure. Oh, beautiful, of course. No more stolen sisters. Big one for our young women as we're looking at sex trafficking. It's a big topic that's come up as we are 2 hours outside of Toronto, but also we've seen some of our young Anishinaabe sisters in Barrie, Ontario. And this has become a really big, real deal for our Indigenous students to have a safe space, to have those conversations of something that's so uncomfortable as we move through these topics that I always like to say his name, Gord Downey Ba, of what he's helped and supported and reminded us of that work that we do. And a huge miigwech to the Wenjacks for also creating that safe space. And I mentioned that many times to students so we don't feel alone. The majority of the students you've seen in these pictures are Anishinaabe students from our surrounding 5 First Nations that I get to work with. And some of them were non-Native as well, who have the courage and the bravery and the willingness to be uncomfortable when they see it up on the big screen and to share. If you want to go, there should be another set. Yeah, that one right there. That's cool. I don't know who all my promotion is. So it's, yeah, if you want to big screen it so we can get rid of Mr. All Promotion there. I don't know if it'll, oh, that's right, because you're probably.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not
Are
sure.
you using a Mac?
No.
Okay, don't worry about it. Everybody else can sign up and log in and look at it. Don't worry about it, Lisa. Miigwech. Can it go back one page? Yeah, that's just our classroom setting of where kids are willing to be brave and know that they're going to be sharing. We've had a ton of snow days. Okay, you can click it now. So one of the beautiful things that we try to do is community collaboration, and some of it, of course, is inspired through what we want to see, like what Danny Wenjack, the school legacy guide, or if you want to, the reconciliation guide, has allowed, is kind of given permission to our schools to understand why these sorts of trips are so important, not just for non-Native students or for non-Native teachers, but also for Indigenous students to have some of that land-based time. So we have a couple of community collaborations that we gear in with. And in this case, we are scraping hides. We had just completed hunt camp, and I cannot host hunt camp because I can't seem to get the permission yet to use the guns in the proper way that's comfortable for everybody. but I can take the students afterwards to go and clean the hides. So this was an opportunity that we had, and it's a mix of Native and non-Native students, knowing full well it's open to all of the public to jump in, but having that opportunity again to relate, feel our tradition, feel culture, and for those of us who are non-Native and educators that were willing to jump in with us, which there wasn't at this time, but again, as we're coming through the pandemic, it's been tough. You can switch the page. Yeah. So this is a student meeting with a knowledge keeper, just about the different tools that are used in modern day world. We're actually inside of a painted teaching lodge because it was so cold. So we could have a fire and use the tools and still be outside due to just sort of COVID concerns. And we were being hosted in a First Nation that had some pretty extreme, not extreme, I take that back. They had some very, very cautious and deserving concerns for COVID precautions. So we were there. You can flip to the next one, please. Beautiful. So again, here are a couple of students. These both are actual hunters and harvesters who've helped bring in some of those hides in on their own community time. Again, knowing full well, and some of them were able to tie that into school. But again, we are still educating staff of different ways of how they can bring that into their curriculum and assess a student on an experience of them missing 5 to 10 days from school because they're hunting and harvesting for their community. And again, because we have the reconciliation guide, it's a little bit easier for teachers to pick up a guide like that and translate it into what they can see actually happening as a teacher assessing for report cards. Next one. It's just nice to see us all outside, isn't it? Come on now. Next one. This is one of my favorites, not because I look great in my kukum scarf, but because the student beside me, oh my gosh, Lisa, I'm going to cry again. This is a former student. This is one of the gifts of growing up and teaching within your home community. And this guy is now the land manager of his First Nation, and he hosts events like this so that students can come in and for his community to reclaim just their rights for land-based learning. And I got to teach him when he was in grade 9 through to grade 12. And now here he is, all of 29 years old, hosting these events and giving back to his community in the best way that he can. Yeah, just the real deal of where you get to happen. And as an educator, when you have those moments, I got to work with him before I knew about Downie Wenjack. Certainly knew about Channy Wenjack, having grown up knowing him as a part of my life and residential schools, but also for Terry here, sharing his story, but also being there for the youth. And now to have that opportunity to promote and share revitalization. Yeah, that's cool. So back in the classroom, we have beautiful opportunities. Our Dawegan, Bamatsjig Dawegan, our school drum, she is with us at so many times, and it is a we've moved through. She is, I think I said 20 years old and has been with us for so much. There she is at an assembly, and I believe that's the Remembrance Day assembly, where she opened up for those beautiful pictures that you saw earlier in the first set. And she would have actually sat with Terry, who was in the previous picture, which is one of the beautiful things when we have a school like ours that is willing and open, and to ensure that we're always at every assembly, that equity for everybody, including our new students from Ukrainian that have that opportunity, our students who have moved here from South Africa in our teeny tiny town, which seems so wild and crazy, even to us of the Indigenous 5 nations, to have them hosted in here, but to share and show them our Bamatsjig Daweganwa is a really big deal. And I might sound like I'm really going hard here, but it helps with our legacy guide here. This is us in the classroom. It's a regular thing on Thursdays where students come in and sit and know and practice with the hopes that they'll get to go out and do that thing before. You might recognize some of these students. So if you can't sleep tonight and you want to go on the Oshkosh-Koday Instagram page, you can check them out and see some of them overlap, and they keep showing up. Okay. This is one of my favorites. I don't know if you can press on the screen and it'll show you, but oh yeah, it's just one of those little backs and forths. We do quite a bit of work with community, but also for ourselves of leather work. As you can see, we're just making little medicine bundles that we can make and share and gift out. Part of the work that comes with that is for students is just trying to remember who they are. And for non-Indigenous students, it's trying to learn more about the lands that they are growing up on. And for some students, it's about, honestly, some of the racist comments that their parents might have said or grown up with and think are normal and common to say still. Want to change it again? This is one of our students. He's actually our Indigenous student trustee. It's the first real one we've had of our public school. And I just love of our school board. And I just love that he's holding that one up. And one of his stories, and he often has to speak to Truth and Reconciliation about being a legacy school, about being an Indigenous student, but also just working in a colonized system and trying to share Indigenous student truth from living on the res, and that experience of coming in to a public and that school culture clash. And this is his last year with us. And his community, because he felt he needed to be taken seriously, had bought him a $600 suit so that he could attend the school board's meetings and be taken more seriously, which shouldn't have to happen in order for an Indigenous voice to be heard. And he cut his hair in order for people to hear him more loudly. And it worked. They can hear him now, but he's saying the same things he was before he put that on. So reclaiming his power, he's walked in with a sweatshirt with a ribbon vest over top, and they heard him. All right. I think there's another set I wanted to share. Yeah, that one there. So this is actually a little bit recent. This is some of the work we do of reclaiming our language, understanding story, and it's something that I've learned from a really cool guy. You may have heard of him. His name's Isaac Murdoch. We've been really fortunate to host Isaac in our home territory. It's just how it's been. We just lucked out. So this is just a little bit of language work that I do and what I've been taught. You can change it. We have these gorgeous women who come in every second week, and they make food in one of the home communities every Thursday and house that in for the students. The woman who's wearing the Oshkosh-Koday sweatshirt, the black one, she's a graduate from Parry Sound High School where I work. I lucked out, got to teach her. And now she is the Native Alcohol, Drug, and Abuse Program worker. And she comes in and she also hosts weekend youth camps. And her awesome helper there is one of the best allies we could ever have, who's learned protocol and etiquette in such a good way and brings that food in constant every other week for the youth. And there's nothing like having a feast with people. Yeah, it's one of those given things. And some teachers, as they feel more comfortable, some of the educators will come and sit with us. Yeah, I love that one. Yeah, that's just for fun. I think you can click it and you'll see the whole food. And there's Alan. Getting ready. All right. Is there another one after that? So one of the big things, these shirts, we have always been called Oshkosh-Koday since the students named themselves. This is years ago, even before this set of students. These guys are in grade 10. they're modeling, as you can tell. That's why they look so epically cool and extra deadly. We've gone through a really rough time in the fall. We've had some very serious lockdowns within our school. The pandemic has really hurt and harmed some of our communities, like many. And we've had a few things where we've had some really big heights of racism occur. And one of the things that always feels good is when we can gift and honor ourselves. And so this was an idea we came up with, was to redesign our shirts. And so the guys there, they have the Oshge Shkode. Oshge means new, Shkode means fire. If you look on the one sleeve, but you can't see, and I should probably take a better picture, are the 7 grandfather teachings or grandmother teachings, however you see it. The kids we needed an extra boost. We needed a little morale. And you will easily see as many as 150 students wearing those shirts. But now in their First Nations, so many people from our communities are supporting us and just to let us know they see and hear us, and have bought the shirts too. So that's been really fun. But Oshge Shkode, that new fire, you've heard about the 8th fire series. Well, students were really excited about that and said, we're that fire. And so we've carried that name for several years now. Gotta love those future medicine people and name givers, eh? All right, almost done. Playing a game in Ojibwe there. It's just a nice classroom scene. And if you noticed a kid was barefoot in it, he comes in all the time. Gee whiz. Okay, and keep going. Let's click on that. Beautiful gifts that the students are working on to make when we have people come in as part of their understanding and how they feel they want to acknowledge or recognize that person and the work that they're doing and learning. Often that is another educator or special guest that we have come in. I just love those. That's just a double up of the other one. I think oh, that was amazing. It's short. This, there's 3 Indigenous youth at the front of that line. And this was at our formal. It was a big deal. We had not had a dance since before COVID, of course. And there it was happening. And oh my gosh, we weren't wearing masks. And somehow we all came through it healthy. But to have Indigenous student lead that line and have everyone dancing behind them says so much, despite the racism we are still living with, the hurt and harm, the confusion and uncomfortableness, even for staff, of course, who are there. But to have 3 Anishinaabe young men have the confidence to get up and lead, and for all of our non-Native students to follow in behind, and those who are Anishinaabe, I felt knowing that you guys would be on this page with me and hearing me speak, needed to see and hear and know that when we have spaces, and I know from my Indigenous lens, I've helped create that space, but I didn't tell them to do the conga line. So it's pretty awesome when we have a school that's willing to put in that time. Miigwech. I think there's one more after that, Lisa. Oh, there they are again. We are now eating the moose meat that was hunted and harvested by the students. Yeah, so awesome. You could maybe just show the whole page, Lisa. Thank you. You'll see a lot of bus cancellations. You'll see study sheets if you want to click on one and ask about it. Yeah, that's a great one. These are topics in our grade 10 Indigenous Studies course that I think we call here in Ontario First Nations, Métis, and Inuit of Canada is what it's called. So these are some of the things the students were preparing for their final exam and their project. So you might recognize some of the topics in there. Big talks for people who are 14 and 15 years old, I'd say, and how they look and see the world and feel comfortable talking about it, and knowing they're going to be uncomfortable talking about it. That's a big key for us. And I mean, I'm going to say, and I know I've been talking a lot here, Lisa, and you know I always do. My colleagues are struggling with some of these topics, and aren't prepared still, despite all the joy that you are seeing in these. And with the permission of these families and the students I work with, for you to see them, the staff I work with are really struggling right now, even with just changing our land acknowledgement and knowing how to walk with integrity as they see, like, these students, particularly the Indigenous ones, and those who are comfortable to move along with us, who are non-Indigenous, their friends, people they've grown up since kindergarten. But the staff I'm working with and I've worked with for several years, are struggling just to change our land acknowledgement. It needs something so that they can have an ownership, and with the hopes that, as Harriet said, but I know, Harriet, you are an Indigenous person too, but for our non-Indigenous teachers to feel that grace and kindness and compassion and trust, to know that when you speak to the land acknowledgement, to walk the talk that we are saying. And I think that's one of the gifts also that our reconciliation guide can offer. And that has definitely overflowed into our Indigenous communities and our non-Indigenous employees who work within our First Nations. This is a place that they go to. They love to wear our sweatshirts, but also now the Downy Wenjack sweatshirts. Yeah. I think I'm going to stop right there, but you can open up to show the entire page so people can see again if you wish. It goes right back to the beginning of the pandemic and before. Oh, I guess you got to log in.
The link's in the chat for anyone who wants to.
It's a public page, so feel free to take a look. It is the students who choose what is going to go on and what they're comfortable with. The goal that we have at our school now, of course, is our powwow. We're going to go back to that, but doing a purple wall. A couple of teachers said they just need something big to remind them. And that's the one thing they've asked of, is to have just one big purple wall of where things can go and they feel like they can include something in a space that's safe for them, which I'm kind of fascinated with, because I'm like, put it anywhere. But people are really worried. And I think because we've had to deal with some really racist things this year at our school, teachers really want to show up in a good way. And a purple wall makes them feel safe. How awesome is that? And it's all because of this. How amazing. Way to go, Gordon Chaney. Look at all the stuff they sacrificed and gave to us for a purple wall. All right, miigwech.
Thanks, Jonah. That was awesome. Thanks to everybody for sharing. It's been really, really fantastic. Does anyone else want to share or have any comments or questions or ideas or anything they want to throw out there?
I guess I want to thank everyone for coming and also for sharing. I kind of think of two things that happen. I think of a lesson where I start when I'm talking about, I talk about, I put up words, no choice. And I've been thinking now about that again. And I start with the fact that, okay, what can you define it? My students, can you define what this means? And then we kind of go through, we look at our history, look at the history of Indigenous people. And then I bring it to where we are and I erase the no and say, now we have so many choices, endless choices and opportunity. And we kind of look at where we've come in our journey and where we're going. Then I think of my Uncle Cheney, I think of Gordon, and I always bring back Gord for this specific reason. And I always shared a story of how I never received a hug as a child, ever. I've always tried to get a hug from my mom. It wasn't until the day I heard when Gord passed away that I finally received my hug from my mom. And I always thanked Gord, because when Gord came into our lives, my mom, her healing didn't start, but it continued. It was already continuing, but she just was able to, for me, give me that hug that I so desired and waited decades to have. And it's not uncommon for children of students that attended residential schools to have gone through this, to not have received a hug, because there was such a disconnect that happened, and that we longed for that hug and we never received it. So for me, I always acknowledge and thank Gord for coming into our lives. For I received the hug on the day Gord passed. And so I think I was thinking of him, and I was thinking of my late Uncle Cheney too, and I was thinking how my Uncle Cheney had no voice at the time, and Gord coming in to his story gave him that voice. And we're that voice for my Uncle Cheney. We're that voice for those 150,000 children. We're that voice for the communities. We're that voice because of, I think, of the role we have as educators, not just educators. You know, today today I made Bannock with my students. At 9:40 second period, I asked the librarian, can you make Bannock? Honestly, my students were like, you don't know how to make Bannock? I'm like, no, I've never made Bannock, honestly. So I had to admit to them, I said, I make something called donuts, sweet Cree donuts. That's what I make. I don't make Bannock. And just what? And sorry, and I don't make Bannock. I make donuts. Okay, so I had to ask my librarian when she came in with our support worker, and we made Bannock in the culture room, and second period. And on, I think I have them fourth period, we ate the Bannock, and how it takes so many of us together in our class. And, you know, our librarian has all these hidden talents, all these hidden teachings, and we're just bringing her out and say, can you come and share this? And the students are seeing her in a much different light than they normally would as a librarian, who, you know, she's the one that is control center of our Chromebooks, right? She keeps us in check with everything, and we so value her. But now seeing that it takes so many of us, to be able to do this, and I'm so thankful for that. But I just was reminded of listening to all and just kind of reflecting this morning, because I got up at 5. Why? I don't know. But I was like, yes, our voices, how important our voices are. My Uncle Cheney had no voice at that time. Gord has projected his voice. We're the voice. And I'm so thankful for the work that the fund does. I'm so thankful for the work that the teachers do and the communities and our partners. And I'm just thankful that I can be here. I had to shut my phone off. My daughter's probably done basketball, so I'm going to have to mute.
Thanks so much, Harriet. I think this was a really great session. Jen, thanks for sharing. Harriet, Jonah, Sophie, Tara. It was really great having you all here. Natalie and Sabrina as well. Tyler, I know you came in late, but thanks for joining us. And if anyone has any further questions or wants to connect with anyone else, we're really happy to do that. So please reach out through emails, and we're happy to connect and answer any other questions. And hopefully we can do this again. This has also been recorded, so we'll share it for anyone who missed maybe the beginning with Marissa, which was awesome as well. I just want to say Bommy P. Thank you so much, and we'll see you all again. Keep up the great work.
Me, Gretch, Bommy P, me, Lisa. I gotta go pick up my kids from basketball that I'm supposed to be coaching.